just wanted to take an opportunity to talk about leftovers. Now, I am notorious for disliking them. I don't like to call them leftovers, even though that's what they are. I know that lots of people enjoy leftovers, but I like approaching things from a different perspective and say that almost anything can become a freezer meal. So that is why we have been focusing so much for January and February on freezer meals. And I thought this would be a good opportunity because in the last couple of videos I have said just about anything can turn into a freezer meal. And just because you don't prepare it in advance in bulk to put in the freezer so that you can later put it in your slow cooker, in your oven, or in your pressure cooker, doesn't mean it can't be a freezer meal. So I wanted to show you some of the things that I have in my freezer and refrigerator that are ready to go for. These are meals for 4 people, and it's just super easy to do it this way. I'm going to start with this because this is the Mississippi pork roast that we had for dinner the other night. I just popped it in a freezer container and stuck it in my freezer. Now we're going to have this tonight for dinner, only I'm going to turn it into a burrito filling, and I'm not going to do anything except heat it up. I'm going to let it thaw on the counter or in the sink for the afternoon, and then later I'm going to stick it in a skillet and let it heat up, and then I'm going to let everybody have at it, and we're going to put out all of the taco and burrito filling or toppings or whatever, and everybody can build their own taco or burrito, and I think it's going to be great. And I think that my family is going to particularly love it like that, and it's going to get rid of the leftovers or the freezer meal. So this gives it new life, because I really do feel like freezing something that you've previously cooked in the slow cooker keeps it ultra fresh, and it doesn't get that leftover taste. I am super sensitive to the way leftover meat tastes. Oftentimes, if it's been slow cooked in a soup, a stew, or something like this, I don't mind it so much. Chili, spaghetti sauce, that kind of thing, I will freeze it and reheat it all day long. But some things you just can't do that with. So this is the Mississippi pork roast. Like I said, we're going to eat this for dinner tonight. These are the mashed potatoes. I even popped those in a container. The container is probably a little bit too large, but it's what I had at. Some of these things I have had in my freezer for over a month. Some of them were cooked before Christmas, and they're going to be eaten soon. This is some beef stew that I made, and this is definitely enough for 4 people. All we have to do is thaw it, heat it up in a pot or a skillet, or you can even pop this in your slow cooker from frozen, turn it on, and let the slow cooker do its job on low until it's ready to go. This is some beef barley soup. Soups and stews are particularly suited for freezing, but anything pretty much can be saved over and frozen. But there are a couple caveats. This is beef barley soup. Again, I could pop this in my slow cooker. You just want to run some warm water around the outside of your sealed container until it pops out. Pop in your slow cooker. If you are concerned, you can add like a half a cup of warm water just to give it something to steam. And then check it a few times throughout the day. Give it a good stir until it's nice and bubbly and you're ready to serve it. All you have to do then is serve it with some biscuits or some bread and butter. Maybe you're going to make some bread in your bread maker, and then you go from there. Here's another soup. I made this last night. This has been in my refrigerator. We're probably going to eat this in the next few days as another meal. This is Rick's mom's potato soup. You can find this on my channel as Judy's Potato Soup. This is a brothy potato soup. It's super easy to make, and it has only a little bit of bacon in it, but the rest is all vegetables and chicken stock or vegetable stock. It is delicious, and we love it. And if I wanted to, I could pop this in the freezer and turn this into a freezer meal. The thing I like about doing a freezer version is that if I put it in my refrigerator and you don't eat it within a week, you really have to get rid of it. If you take care and you put it in a container, then you put it in your freezer, you get an extension of life out of this meal for another 3 months or longer, depending on how you've stored it. So you really do get a lot of bang for your buck. There are a couple of tips I will share with you. If you are making a dish that you're going to put in your slow cooker like a soup, a stew, something of that nature, then you're fair game to go ahead and put the leftovers in the freezer. You're going to get a 3-month extension of life on that meal. Because I don't know if you're like me, but if you plan for leftovers and then put it on your menu, then I like to cycle those leftovers out within a week. But sometimes I don't want to be eating the same thing over and over again. So putting them in the freezer is just like a nice little surprise. Like you have it in there, you know it in the back of your head, and then one night when you don't know what you're going to make for dinner, maybe life got in the way, and you just don't know, and you're like, oh, hey, I have that Mississippi pork roast, or I have that creamy ranch chicken that I made in the slow cooker that I can already pull out of the freezer. It's already cooked. It just needs to be reheated. When you reheat things from frozen, you just need to add a little water in a pot, in a skillet, or whatever, even in a slow cooker if you have time early in the day to do that. It's going to serve you well. It's going to taste like it did the day you made it, and you're going to be super happy with the result. The one thing I will say, if you made something like chili mac, you don't want to freeze that. Chili mac is going to turn to mush when you reheat it. So if you make chili mac or something that you've put the pasta in already, you want to put that in your fridge and you want to eat it within a week, because that pasta is not going to reheat well, especially multiple times. The other thing I would like to really drive home is, if you make something like this beef stew I'll use as an example, you're going to take this out of your slow cooker, you're going to put it in your container or in your freezer bag or however it is you're going to store it in your freezer. You're going to let it cool on your counter, and then you're going to put it in your freezer. Then when you want to use it, you're going to heat it up however, in a skillet, in a pot with some water, or in your slow cooker all day long. Once you reheat this from frozen, you're not going to want to refreeze this again, okay? So you're going to cook it, eat it, put the leftovers in the freezer, take them out, reheat them, eat it. If you have even a little bit left over, you're going to want to put those in a separate container in your refrigerator and enjoy them for lunch tomorrow or the next day. You don't want to continue to heat, then refreeze, because this can be very dangerous prospect from a bacterial perspective. You do not want to introduce a lot of problems later on down the line and then give your family or yourself food poisoning. So I did want to point out, this is just frost. It is not freezer burn. This has not been in my freezer long enough to get freezer burn. So we'll go over that again. Don't continue to reheat from frozen and then refreeze. Only freeze it one time. Then after that, if you have even a little bit left over. The other thing is pasta, if it's cooked in the stew, or like if you made chicken Alfredo with broccoli and put fettuccine in there with the sauce, if you made chili mac, I'll use that as an example, you do not want to freeze pasta in sauce, because it's not going to reheat well. The pasta is going to break down because it's going to continue to uptake liquid as it's going through its freezing process, and then it's just going to turn mushy. Now, if you wanted to make chili mac and you made the macaroni and the chili separately, you can freeze that macaroni after it's been cooked, and then you can just reheat it in the microwave and it's going to come out perfect. So keep that in mind. Pasta can be frozen after it's cooked. Rice can be frozen after it's cooked. You just want to make sure that you put it in a freezer bag, get all the air out of it. And rice, I had a tip from someone a very long time ago, and it's never failed me. The rice you want to put in the freezer while it's still a little bit warm. I don't know why, but it does have something to do with the way the rice reheats. So those are my tips and tricks about how just about anything can be turned into a freezer meal. It doesn't have to always taste like it's a leftover. It can be planned, and it can be a real lifesaver in the future. You're freezer banking for your future. Right now, I have enough food in my freezer that's ready to be prepared that I could probably eat for at least 2 weeks without a problem, and just really only have to reheat things. And I did that because I was getting ready to have surgery, and I wanted to make sure that my family had an easy time of it and didn't have to overthink it, didn't have to think too hard about it, didn't have to worry about what are we going to have for dinner and have to put together a recipe, even though all my people are perfectly capable of doing that. And that is a good segue into our next segment, which I'm going to go over, and I'm just going to give you guys an update on my surgery because I am now 2 weeks post, and I'm going to give you a little bit of an update. So I'll meet you over at the jar wall. All right, as promised, I'm here to give you a little update on my surgery. For those of you who don't know, I was diagnosed early in December with uterine cancer. They found bleeding during my well woman checkup when I went in for a pap smear. If that's too much information for you guys, I'm sorry, but I'm not apologizing. I'm kind of using this as an opportunity to remind all of my sisters to not skip your annual well woman checkup, because it literally could mean the difference between life and death for you. That's why we need to have them. And the doctor has told me there was really no good reason why I should have had bleeding detected at that time, but they did, and they asked to take biopsies, and they did find that I had cancerous cells in my uterus. So they scheduled me to go visit a gynecological oncologist, so I had to travel an hour and a half to a different county where there was a specialist who could facilitate my treatment. And so I had to go to Wilmington. You know, you guys, I live in Eastern North Carolina, so I had to go to Wilmington to visit a wonderful doctor who took care of me very well. Scheduled me for my surgery on the 21st of January. I spent one night in the hospital, and it was like a spa day for me. I felt great. You know what my favorite part was? They put these things on your legs so that you get good circulation. They kind of massage your legs. It's the best. It was the best. I loved them. They told me that a lot of people don't really like them, but I was digging it. So I had a complete radical hysterectomy and oophorectomy, which means that they removed my uterus, my cervix, my ovaries, and my lymph nodes. I was in the hospital for one night, as I mentioned. Doctor came and visited me. They thought they would have the pathology information back before they sent me home on the 22nd, but they did not. And I found out why. I went for my follow-up appointment on the 4th of February this week and got a really great report. The reason that the pathology didn't come back right away was because they found a lot of tough fibroids on my left ovary, and they wanted to do a complete pathology on the ovary and the lymph node associated with that. And the news couldn't be better. I am cancer-free, and they were able to remove all of the cancer. There was a dime-sized tumor in my uterus that had only penetrated about a third of the way through the uterine wall, so it hadn't spread anywhere. It had not metastasized, and I should have a 96% chance of not having to deal with any of this ever again. So now we're just on to the healing part. I have 4 incisions in my abdomen, and because of the robotic surgery, which I think is like a miracle in the medical world, I'm amazed at how little pain I've actually experienced. I didn't even take the hardcore, pain medication that they gave me. I just did Tylenol and Motrin because that's what works for me. Aside from moving a little bit slowly and having to have, people do things for me, like I can't lift things, and I am moving a little bit slower than normal. I'm doing really, really well. I'm about 2 weeks post-surgery now, and I feel great. The one thing I will say is I did not expect to feel this exhausted. So it's all a learning curve, all about giving myself a little bit of grace, because I'm a self-professed control freak. I like to do a lot of the things by myself. I do myself. That's what my youngest daughter used to say all the time. I do myself. Well, she comes by it, honestly, because her mama is the same way. So allowing Rick to do a lot of things for me, because Rick and I are a team and we've always approached our marriage that way. He has taken up a lot of the slack, and I could not be more thankful that my family has been able to care for me in this way. I could not be more thankful for good insurance, for great doctors and great nurses at the hospital. So that's my update, and a reminder, as I said, ladies, do not skip your well woman checkup, because it could really make a big difference in your life. And if you are faced with a diagnosis, put your faith in God, keep the faith, constantly stay in prayer, know that God has a plan for you, and that in the end, everything will work out just right. So I hope you learned something. I hope that update is really hopeful for you. I hope that it's a reminder for you if you haven't had your well woman checkup in a while. And I hope that the tips and tricks that we talked about earlier about the freezer meals are helpful. I hope you give them a try, and I hope you love them. And until next time, I'll see ya.